Hi guys, it's episode 6 of Building to a Billion WoW Gold. This week we're going to have a look at my total sales, purchases and profit so far in Shadowlands since release and how I've been making most of my gold. But first, let's have a look at this week's numbers. My 7-day dashboard has me at 7.3 million gold profit this week. My big sales this week are dominated by Corpheus Shoulder Transmog. Construct shoulder pads at 381k is nice sales. Abyssal Fragments, we're getting used to seeing those every week now. I sold the two-handed sword from Zereth Mortis, the epic BOE one, for just over 250k. That was a flip from a 10k buy last week. Plundered Biting Shot Longbow, this is from Island Transmog sales, still going through strong even today. Diamond Tipped Cane sales, so this is White Transmog sales really popping off. I think this is something I'll probably talk about next week when we see how that market develops a little bit more. As for purchases this week, you may notice that the amount I've spent overall has dropped dramatically, down to 615k, and it's because I'm into basically what I would call my normal out-of-patch gold making routine. So this is the first week in what I would consider normal expenses while I've been doing this series. So mostly on here it's transmog that I've bought to flip. The Proto-Hide Drape and the Majestic Oracle's Drape, these are from the Zereth Mortis and Lightened Reputation Paragon chests. These will end up selling for at least 200k, and I have Manthieus' video to thank for these, as I'd completely missed them and knew nothing about them until I saw that video. There's lattices on here as well. I'm flipping these and they're selling very quickly. On most weeks they're making a profit on the week that I buy them, and I'm having stock left over, so that's really good long-term profit. Fierce Scarab Pets at the top. I bought 4 of these this week at 10k each, and I've sold one this week for 110k, so that's really solid business. The Queen's Garnet Gem, third from top. I bought 127 of these this week for 33k, so that averages at about 259 gold each, and I've sold 10 this week for an average price of over 10k, so that's about 40 times what I paid for them, and it's already profit this week. Hikons, who is one of the biggest gold makers out there, tweeted about his sales and profits so far in the entire Shadowlands this week, which made me interested to look at my own numbers. So this is my TSM since Shadowlands released on November the 23rd, 2020, until this past weekend. Usually there would be lines with more data, but TSM Ledger does struggle producing the graph data when you ask it for this much information at once, but I got the numbers at the bottom, which is what I was really after seeing. I'm going to talk about these numbers individually and then pull it together at the end, and then we can have a look at some of the other things I've been flipping and doing in Shadowlands. So here we can see in Shadowlands so far I've spent 418 million gold. Now TSM data does not include what is probably my biggest expenditure, so can you guess what that is? By far my biggest gold expense is WoW token purchases. I'm not going to go through my transaction history on my Blizzard account to count how many I've bought, since it would take ages, but I did a quick bit of maths and I've probably bought around the region of about 300 WoW tokens since Shadowlands released. I have probably spent somewhere in the region of 75 million gold on WoW tokens that is not included in these figures. TSM doesn't seem to capture other expenses as well, such as listing fees or, for me, gambling in raids, which is why the profit figure for Shadowlands, even after WoW tokens are taken into account, is slightly higher than my current gold total. Next here we have sales of over 1.2 billion gold since Shadowlands released. That's crazy and way higher than I thought it was. Now you're probably aware that the auction house takes a 5% cut of all sales, so approximately how much gold do you think has been taken out of the game from the sales cut of my auctions alone? So those of you that are quicker at maths than me would probably have realised that in Shadowlands I've paid around 60 million gold in auction house cut fees. But the only number we probably really care about is profit, and here it says I'm in the region of 790 million gold profit since Shadowlands released. Now if we take around the 75 million gold that TSM doesn't take into account that I've spent on WoW tokens, then I'm probably in a profit region of around 721 million gold so far in Shadowlands. If I wanted to have a breakdown of how all this gold was earned, I can't just look at Legendary and Crafter's Mark sales, as these don't actually show profit and are all crafted and sold with different material costs, etc. As you've seen this week, and most other weeks if you watch the whole series, the day-to-day gold making things I do in WoW, which is a lot of flipping, a bit of farming and some non-current expansion crafting, make me around 1 million gold profit a day, maybe a little bit less sometimes. We have had around 520 days since Shadowlands released, so that means all my non-Shadowlands crafting will have made me around 520 million gold profit in that time period. And the other 200 million gold profit, to make it up to 720 million gold profit or so, came from current expansion stuff like Legendary and Crafter's Mark crafting. This is obviously a very approximate numbers, but the figures also suggest this is true. That is because the purchase, sales and profit figures suggest a lot of flipping because of such a high percentage of profit compared to the sales. That's like 65% of sales turn into profit. If you looked at someone whose TSM ledger was only showing legendary and crafter's mark sales for the whole expansion, then this would be more in the region of 10 to 20% profit on sales. So maybe they would make something like 120 to 240 million gold profit on a 1.2 billion gold in sales. We can have a look at a few things. Blackrock Bulwark is one of the most popular pieces of transmog in the game. You can see here throughout Shadowlands I've purchased 43 of them for around 6.7 million gold, or an average of about 156k each. I have sold 25 for 11.9 million gold, or 476k each. So I've made nearly 5.2 million gold profit on this single item throughout Shadowlands, with 18 left to sell. But you can see here that on average I'm selling for triple of what I'm buying it for. So you can see how we get such a high sales to profit figure. You can see the same with the Chewed on Reigns mount. I have bought 56 for an average price of 117,000 gold and sold 21 at an average price of 469k. So in this situation I'm actually selling for more than 4 times the price of what I bought these for. The Abyssal Fragments we've talked about before, with an average purchase price of 957 gold and an average sales price of 5,190 gold, selling for over 5 times what we paid for, so really pushing up that sales to profit percentage. The Golden Main mount is not quite as dramatic, buying for an average of 154k and selling for an average of 281k, but still almost doubling the initial investment. Basically you can see here, by flipping you make a much higher profit margins than with something like legendary crafting, and a lot of the time the stuff you flip you don't really need to cancel scan it at all. For large periods of Shadowlands I've only been posting my auctions every 48 hours and not going back to auctions until they expire at all. The main point of this was to basically say that I'd made around 70% of my profit in Shadowlands from stuff that was nothing to do with legendary crafting or crafter's mark crafting, and with none or minimal cancel scanning through the entire of the expansion. In each patch I did Shadowlands crafting for a short amount of time when it was extremely profitable, but there is absolutely no reason to be part of the cancel scanner meta if you don't want to. I just tapped out as soon as the profit started to suck and I just got bored of it and went back to doing the stuff that I did not have to cancel scan. So you're not stuck in a cancel scanning meta if you do not want to be. Anyway guys, I think that will do us for this week. Thanks for watching, and hopefully next week we can look at that white transmog craze and see how that's coming along.